and full course yellow is deployed. Full course yellow is deployed.
Yes, and with the dulcet tones of our very good friend from the FIA World Endurance Championship, it's welcome to another edition of Full Course Yellow, the in-pit lane show, where we get together once a week, just a few of us get together and have a bit of a chat about all things motorsport. And I suppose the main thing to talk about this week, of course, is the Spanish Grand Prix. Another fabulous win to Oscar Piastri, controlled the race all the way from pole position, was really under no threat at any stage, totally in control. Lando Norris, of course, second, and of course for the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc in third place. The man who was running up in the looked at a possible challenge to the McLaren, the only challenge to the McLaren, was the young Dutchman, the plucky young Dutchman in Max Verstappen, who had an interesting sort of day. So let's talk about that. Joining me at the moment, we've got Peter Johnson and we've got Mark Jones as well. Doc is, I think, going to join us in just a moment. But right now, guys, welcome to the program. And well, first of all, let's talk about Oscar's performance first. I mean, from basically from the third qualifying session for most of the weekend, he was pretty much in a class of his own, wasn't he? He was totally in control.
Yep. Personally, I thought the Grand Prix was boring. I thought qualifying was the most exciting. Lando and Oscar trading fastest laps. But yeah, I thought the Grand Prix was fairly boring, really.
Mark, what was your...
It was fairly interesting from in respect that there was a fascinating battle going on for third place. We saw the two McLarens jump up the order, and in Norris's case, it was eventually jumped into second place. It took him about... Oh, excuse me. Yeah, pardon me for that. Yeah, I guess Max got stuck in my nose there just for a second. Now, it took a third of the race or so for Lando to get in front of Max Verstappen, but once the race seemed to be on then for second place for quite a while. Max seemed to be the best of the it looked like they said afterwards that they had the pit strategy that should have nailed down third place and possibly even threatened Lando for second for Max Verstappen, but the safety car arrived at the wrong time for them, blew their strategy, and then and while the same token it put Ferrari into, and Charles Leclerc in particular, into a very, very sweet position, and he was able to mow down Max quickly, and then we saw what happened with George Russell. And my goodness me, did that turn some heads after that with Max fighting with the Red Bull team, and the result of that, that he involved himself and inserted himself into the side of George's Mercedes.
It certainly looks like he's lost the plot a bit. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, I suppose he's been so used to being so dominant over the past couple of years, and having clearly the best car out there, and now he doesn't have clearly the best car out there. He doesn't probably have even the second best car out there, or perhaps even the third best car out there. He's keeping it competitive just by his undoubted talent. There's no doubt that his sheer talent is keeping the car competitive, but you can see that he's getting very annoyed.
Yuki Tsunoda qualified 20th.
Yeah, and that's got its own issues as well, because the word is increasingly going around now that they're already getting. Red Bull are already getting a bit fed up with Yuki and saying, well, we thought obviously Liam wasn't the solution, and so we put in Yuki, and obviously Yuki's not working out. So, but this Isaac Hadjar guy is doing a fabulous job. So are they going to burn him as well? But at the moment, because that's what they're talking about right now, is that Yuki won't last if he doesn't pull his pull his finger out pretty quickly and start getting a few points.
Bit of tech info was that Yuki didn't even have a Max car underneath him. So obviously, from week to week or round to round, unfortunately, the car set up. They start with a Max base, and they adjust it for the driver in the cockpit, whoever it's been. As Brett said, you're burning everyone. But I have it on good authority that the car that Yuki had wasn't the same car as he had on the previous round in the triple threat, because when he smashed it in the last one and put it up sideways and did some damage, they had to use an old chassis, and it wasn't as the same spec as all the parts that are on it now, and they didn't actually all quite fit onto the old chassis with all the new spec upgrades they've been doing this in the last few rounds and this year so far. So it was a bit of a hybrid, bit of a mumbo jumbo sort of car that they couldn't iron out all the creases of as well too, because he had an old spec platform, an old spec chassis, old spec, all that sort of stuff. So there was quite considerable damage left over from the car on the previous round. So they were chasing it.
That's the problem of having 3 races so close together. It's it's quite chaotic. They've got a little bit of a break now before they head over to Canada. So they've got a bit of time to sort that out. But having 3 races in a row, they're really hard pushed if they get lots of damage at Monaco. And let's face it, that's the sort of place where you can get a bit of damage. Then they've got some issues perhaps.
By the way, that backdrop's not Yuki's smash from the previous round. That's what Max does every round. Yeah. I've got that.
I also think it's representative of Christian Horner's brain space, trying to hold everything together, and there's little bits flying in all directions.
I don't think Christian has got the influence. I mean, it's sort of similar to what Fred's got with Lewis at the moment. They can only, because of the stature of the driver and the record they've got, and the the tall poppy syndrome, they can only tell their number one driver, who's got so many accolades and so much history and that much respect in the sport, that even if you're the team principal and you're technically his boss, he's just going to tell you where to go. So, and they're going to say and do what they want anyway, to a certain extent, when things don't suit them, and not necessarily put the team in its best light, despite in retrospect, they probably regret saying some of the things they said in the next couple of weeks. They probably think they should have said it.
The interesting thing is going to be now that the speculation, that's not even a rumour, it's speculation, and a lot of it has come from Ralph Schumacher, so you take it with a huge bucket of salt. But nonetheless, it has been repeated by a few people, claiming that Max does have an out clause in his contract, which suggests that if he doesn't finish within the first 4 or something, that he's got an out clause at the end of the year. So so the question is now, has he lost faith in the team enough that he would say, nah, that's it, I want to go elsewhere. The problem is, of course, where does he go? I mean, the obvious choice in many respects would be Aston Martin, but then of course, so who does he replace? Because unless it turns out that Lance's wrist is terminal, then I don't think he's going to get the boot, and Fernando is certainly there for the moment. Although it would be interesting that if they went to Fernando and just said, look, we've got Max. We're going to have Max. We've got the money. We've got the go ahead. We're gonna have Max next year, and we need you to step aside. Whether he would, I'm sure he'd negotiate himself a very very good out clause, which might include even a drive of the Valkyrie somewhere, but and perhaps a Valkyrie of his own. But apart from that,
I sent Matt Jones, this concerns you too. I sent Brett a little bit of news that's this afternoon. That's, I'm not sure what time it is over there in Europe or whatever it may be. if Lance can't do his home Grand Prix, Felipe's been
Felipe Drugovich.
dragged in. Well, that's obvious.
Well,
But yeah,
that's
Felipe.
going to depend because
Yeah.
it's his problem is, I mean, he's already come out and said, yes, look, if I'm needed, I'm there. I will not race at Le Mans. Cadillac is saying, hang on, we've got contracts with this is our biggest race, and we will not be impressed if you suddenly get up and you suddenly get up and go. So it will be a question of whether he can get out of that or whether there is a clause in his contract somewhere which says. You would think that common sense would indicate that he would have a clause somewhere there that says that like if as you're a Grand Prix reserve driver, if you are in fact needed, that you're going to be able to just transfer across. But you imagine that Cadillac would not be too thrilled at having that situation.
Absolutely not. But he just go, too bad, so sad. I'm going. See you later. I've got better things to do. That's what it boils down to.
Well, that's it. Speaking of penalty points, Doc sent us through this came out of the FIA today, which shows our current, it's not our championship points, but our penalty points, and where we see that Max is currently leading ahead of Liam Lawson. Our own Oscar Piastri in third place at the moment. Well done to Oscar.
Equal third.
So very well done there. But yeah, Max will need to be on his best behaviour for the next couple of rounds at least, because if he picks up another penalty, they'll give him a holiday for a race, and that would really.
Just want to point out, Brett, that there's a few drivers there. There's a lot. What's there? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So just over half the field of 20 if you don't count the extra drivers. I don't think too many of the fill-in free practice one and stuff like that have incurred anything. But just with over 12 drivers there, just to point out who was at the top of the list with that particular number, and the guy he hit on the weekend is down on the list with only 1 point. So you get the track record for the.
Well, he's a very good boy, George.
Oh, he is totally great. I agree with that. But I mean, look, there does seem to be a common denominator there anyway, at least.
Yeah, the successful and the very fast drivers get penalties because they're forceful, and I think that's one of the things that Oscar has proven. That I think Max has got George, certainly got George bluffed. I think he's probably got Lando bluffed, but he hasn't got Oscar bluffed. I think Oscar is of the type that is of the sort that it's like, you can try that all you like with me, but I'm not getting out of the road unless it's I'm going to fight for the position, and I'm just not going to sort of pull back and or do something stupid because. He's very focused. I think that a couple of people have said that, in terms of his performance over the years in winning all those championships is, the guy knows how to win races, but he also knows how to win championships. And winning races is one thing, winning championships is another, and Oscar's got the runs on the board.
Stroll was one. He won F3 and F2. He just doesn't seem to be able to produce it in F1. But, yeah, just don't call Oscar Ice Boy.
Yeah, well, whether he likes it or not, I mean, that's the sort of. I mean, now the media over in Europe are sort of saying, "Oh, he's boring. It's not what we need. The sport needs colourful characters in this era of Netflix and Drive to Survive and all that. We need colourful personalities. We need larger than life characters, and he's just Oscar's just dull and dreary, and he's another Kimi Räikkönen, but without
just
the
to
dry
finish
humour.
Just to finish off that graphic, the last point was what it comes down to, and I Mr. Angie MJ there, and I were having a little chat off screen before we started our full course yellow tonight. It was good little pre-chat. We could almost call it a pre-production meeting, Jonesy. We were having a little chat that I mentioned that in the next 2 races, you could probably think Mr. MV will be on his best behaviour, because if he incurs at least 1 penalty point in the next 2 races, he's got an automatic mat. bans. So he might even invoke that clause himself and think, "Oh, stuff this! I need a break for a week. I'm just going to go play with the kids, the young fella, and go karting or go for a trip around the
It'd be
Nurburgring or something."
interesting just to see how that has sort of affected him. I know from, I'm going back a long, long time, and this is how long ago it was, because he's currently racing his own cars at the moment. But I remember when Aaron Seaton was born, when Glenn came on the program in the first series, I think it was actually back in about 1996, and it was Aaron had just been born, and Glenn said at the time, he said that it did change the way he thought about the way he went racing, because he said, like, he said, now I'm sort of, I've got responsibilities now that are outside of this race team, outside of this championship, outside of what I'm doing. I've got a family to support. I've got to look after myself. And he said, you might unknowingly, he said, like in the past it was just, oh bugger, I don't care. I see half a gap, I'm going for it. Now perhaps you're thinking back, is it worth the risk of putting myself into the wall and banging myself up, or perhaps worse? So whether it has any effect, you wouldn't think so at the level that Max is, and with his personality and all the rest of it. But that's why it's interesting that he was just, you could tell he was just in such a foul mood for the whole weekend. I mean, when they put him on the hard tyres, he was just incredulous, and they had no choice at the time.
They're the only ones left.
They were the only ones that they had left. But the reason they were the only ones that they had left is that they were, obviously they threw tyres at him to try and get that better
Three-stop
qualifying
strategy.
position.
Yeah.
And and it didn't. The Mercedes breaking down when it did, and the full course yellow, or the safety car messed things up. So.
I have an exception as well too, and I jumped on board this straight after the race too. This is totally related to everything that was going on there. You know how they have their driver of the day, and everyone's social media platforms decide they want to have a piece of the action. I did think even before they asked the questions of the general public, I thought Hulkenberg's drive was absolutely exceptional. He did strategy, team, himself. It just seemed to all piece together on the right day. And to get a fifth place for probably the bottom rung team, bar none, is quite a result. They just seem to have got it all right on the day, a bit like Williams did in the last race.
Yeah, well, they certainly did well. I mean, yes, the team are sort of saying, like, it came out of the blue. We're absolutely delighted. We thought we were improving a bit, but we certainly weren't expecting to finish up as high as we did and to get as many points as we did. And of course, points means cash. And
Nico said, Brett, that having all those soft tyres left over from qualifying, it just worked a treat.
Yeah, and that's perhaps, I think, if you're one of those teams that aren't in contention for getting into Q3 or getting to the front of the grid, you're probably wise to try to maximise the number of tyres you've got. If you're thinking you can pull a three-stop strategy and make it work. Now, it's not going to work on a lot of tracks and a lot of races, but obviously Red Bull thought that they could pull it off, but Red Bull was wrong, so never mind. Let's say hello to a few people first before we go on much further. Good day to Jared saying Kyle Larson is out of Adelaide. We'll get on to that in just a moment. Box has awarded Max Verstappen the Formula One bumper car champion. G'day to Jimmy K. G'day Jimmy K. Welcome to you as well. Jared also pointing out that Max had no pace on the hard tyres, and he was very clear. He was very that was a great save at the restart.
Oh, what a snap out!
That was that could have ended very, very, very badly for all concerned, and he just did a great job.
And then, and immediately afterwards, there's contact on the straight as Leclerc was going by. So there was a fantastic save to begin with, but then there was almost a secondary incident.
Yeah, so that was sort of the beginning of the end. That's when he was sort of, like he was obviously.
I think that was the mix-up.
massive.
I think that was the mix-up between the team saying give the place back to George, because I think the initial contact, which was Max shouldn't have bumped into George, but I think the initial thing where he had to give the place back was probably Leclerc.
Yeah, that might have been. That sort of messed it up. But I think that the team have now said that they shouldn't have. They made the call in terms of handing the
Yeah.
place back.
So I was
And they're
listening
saying,
to a couple of experts.
perhaps we shouldn't. Yeah, perhaps we shouldn't have, and perhaps in future just leave it until they get the word from race control saying, hand that place back rather than sort of being proactive about it and not trying to pick up a penalty. But you can see that it obviously fired Max up, and he did the wrong thing. And he knows he's done the wrong thing, although he won't sort of. He's sort of semi-admitted it. He hasn't apologised incidentally to George. Apparently, he basically said, "Hey, this is a tough business. Get over it, son." So
Well, who was the FIA director a few years ago before Mike Massey and stuff like that? Who was it? Charlie Whiting, the one that did?
Charlie Whiting was the
yeah. So what happened after Whiting retired? The FIA
died.
Well, he didn't. Yeah, he didn't. He well and truly retired.
Well, yeah, okay. Sorry, I won't harp on the death. Anyway, so what they decided, the FIA changed a few little things. So what was going, and this all resulted, remember, in all the email scandals and stuff like that. So what would happen in the past up until that point was there's always been a steward's room. There will be a steward's room, and it'll also have penalties being handed down during the race and after the race, depending upon the severity and also decisions based during the race. But back then, when Charlie used to do it, what they would do is they radio into Charlie on a private conversation, would be like that, over the private radio, and say, "This has happened, what do you think?" And he, in those cases, for many, many years, would indicate, you've got nothing to worry about there, proceed further on, or, you might want to have a good hard think about that. So that used to go on for years. Anyway, then when all this radio chatter came out and it all went public and Sky Sports got hold of it and emails started and all that sort of thing, they changed the way they delivered the messages to the team. And this is what happened on the weekend with the Christian Horner and Red Bull thing and the sort of like where they made a decision. So they cut the Charlie Whiting thing out, and what they would do is they wouldn't get the advice of the new like chief steward, which would be Massey or whatever it may be, or the current guy. What would happen is they just make rulings during the race, and they make rulings at the steward's room after the race. They wouldn't get advice during the race. And what they did is they put the onus back onto the teams to make a decision on what they think they should do at the time, whereas they used to get advice on that. And it's really, the teams haven't been happy about it for the time being, but it's probably safer. It's probably better for the sport. So that's why, like Brett just said a minute ago, Red Bull made the decision themselves on what they thought on, because that's why Christian said, we've got advice, which would have been chatting to his engineer in a little group huddle and that sort of stuff. Our advice is give it back. So that's what they thought would have been the results of what a ruling would be during the race when it was all analysed, if they had to let it run on, or what would have happened after the race. But one thing you should also remember,
I've never been a fan of the give the place back until you're told by the race officials. Like I would say, and I would do what Max did. I wouldn't even think about it. If they said, Max, you've got to give the place back, I'd say, well, when that's not your decision. That's race control's decision. If race control want me to give it back, I'll give it back. If they think I've done the wrong thing, then I'll cop a penalty for it, whether I agree with it or not. But that's not your decision. That's the decision of race control.
One more thing you should put in perspective. George deliberately ran through a chicane to pass another car and got a drive-through penalty. Max deliberately hit another car and gets to 10 seconds. I want to put that in perspective.
Well, I think that was the other argument that people were using. I mean, sort of Nico Rosberg was, he was white hot about it. And incidentally, I think Nico Rosberg is great on colour commentary.
And I think, continue, Brett, sorry.
No, go ahead, Pete.
Monaco, again, I think it was a bit trial by media because Sky Sports broadcasts George saying, "I'll take the penalty." So I think the stewards thought, well, right, if you're going to be a smart aleck, we're going to up the penalty from what it would normally be. So he got a more severe penalty for being a smart aleck.
But so did
well,
Max. Max
they
said in
shouldn't
the
be
press
doing.
conference afterwards, when he actually was interviewed by the Sky Sports person, and this can be sanctioned as well too. They said to him, what's your take on the incident between yourself and George where you hit him? He said, why does it matter? But then the reporter said, well, there are millions of fans, including kids, and everyone looks up to you, and you're a role model and that sort of stuff. It does actually matter, and basically they inferred what that means they can go out in their go-kart down in Oakley on Saturday and go smash into another damn well kid. That's not right. He needs to be sanctioned over that too.
But he wasn't. He did get an additional an extra penalty, a more severe penalty. Normally that would be what happened in Monaco would be a 10-second penalty. So they thought, right, if you're going to be a smart aleck, we'll give you 20 seconds, or it was a more severe penalty than what they would normally give.
Yeah, which is once again not sort of sticking. I mean, I can see the point of doing it and saying, okay, you're being a smart ass. We'll give you an extra penalty just to make a point of it. But I don't think they should be in that position. There should be prescribed penalties for prescribed incidents, and it should be
Formula One allergic to disqualifying people these days?
Well, I think that's the case. I mean, he's Mutter here is just saying their Formula One. He's you saying Formula One don't want to give Max a ban. People are bored with McLaren's dominance already because of Lando and Oscar. It's not Lando and Oscar that are refusing to battle. It's the team that are basically not leading. And I think also that Lando isn't. Quite frankly, at the moment, I don't think Lando is quite quick enough to be battling Oscar. I think if it was the other way around, we might find that there's a bit of battling will go on. But clearly, Liberty Media would not want Max to be banned for a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, in terms of what it does for the drama of the race, and particularly the viewer numbers in places like particularly in the Netherlands, where he's the number one attraction. So
well, it's a lightning rod.
They don't want to. They don't want to. They certainly don't want to ban him. Just to John D saying, banned for how many races? I mean, the prescription would be that he's it's one. If he picks up another point, it'll be for one race at the moment. So that's the prescribed penalty. I think it was Nico. So it was Nico Hulkenberg was the last person who copped that, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
he got a one race ban for. I can't remember now what that was.
Well, he was.
I think
it wasn't Monaco,
points.
was it?
No.
Yeah. And prior
And I
to that,
think
they had to go
Magnussen-
as far back as when Michael Schumacher was suspended for 3 races
I think
in the
Magnussen got a
90s.
ban as well.
Oh yeah, I think
I
you're
think-
right, Pete.
Kevin or Jan?
Kevin.
Kevin.
Yeah, it was only a couple of years ago for Kev. That's what it was. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kevin did cop it. But anyway, it was as Pete said, it wasn't the most exciting race in the world. But it was great to see Oscar win again, and they'll now regroup and they'll head over to Canada. And Canada always seems to put on a pretty good race. It'll be on some ungodly hour of the morning, and but most of us will be will be in bed because we've been up for 24 hours watching Le Mans. So.
Well, the Canadian Grand Prix has got the only magnet for drama in the Wall of Champions, larger than Max Verstappen himself as a magnet for trouble.
Yeah, so that's coming up. That's the next
So
race.
quick round up of that. K Mag got banned back in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix for hitting Gasly, and he missed the Azerbaijan because he hit Gasly in Monza back in 2024, And I won't go into the details, but that Ramon Grosjean got one back in
Yes, yes,
2012.
Of course he
And
did.
granted one back in 2020. It's incident in the Belgium Grand Prix. Moved across on the McLaren of Lewis Hamilton at the
at the
time.
first
So
turn.
you can't.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go. Spot on, Pete. And there's that one. Jacques Villeneuve, the man that flies around the track now with that brightly coloured hair.
No,
Anyway,
he's got nowhere
I
at the
think it's
moment.
grey. I think it's
Yeah.
grey.
Oh, that's why it's brightly coloured, because I see it at the track and I just see some sort of thing. It must be just dust flying. 1997, he copped it. He did it. It's a bit of dive into history here. Heading into the Japanese Grand Prix, the Canadian then to take just 1 point off his rival Schumacher in order to secure the championship, having outscored him by 20 points to 1 over the previous 2 races. Accelerating out of a spoon curve during a practice session, Villeneuve failed to slow for the yellow flag that were on alert to the drivers to Jos Verstappen's stranded car in that particular case.
Oh,
So,
there you go. So wherever there's controversy, there's Verstappen.
and I won't
Hey, listen,
go any further, but
let's move on quickly.
Schumacher got one back in 1994.
Yeah,
I won't
so
go into that.
let's move on quickly. So Formula One for the weekend. That's over and done with. Now we're finally getting some supercar racing back this weekend. They're all gone across the Nullarbor, or they're all waiting for the race at Wanneroo, or the track. Perhaps for one of the last races at Wanneroo, depending on what happens with the street circuit. It's looking more and more likely, despite the best efforts of Basil. Basil is not happy. He actually said he said at a recent public rally that the people, Mr. Premier, do the right thing and make the people of Perth, that they will respect you if you pull the plug on this ridiculous race track idea and this redevelopment. It's not needed, it's not wanted, and we have the many thousands and thousands. Well, apparently there was about 850 people, and they were all local residents from.
I bet if Basil, they said they were going to put another football oval there, or an athletics track.
Oh,
Basil would shut up. Basil
hey,
wouldn't
listen,
say anything.
if Channel 7 had the Formula 1 rights, Basil would be saying nothing. Oh, sorry, with the supercar rights, I don't think Basil would be saying too much if Kerry Stokes told him not. But he obviously thinks that it's a vote winner. It's not from all the feedback over there. It seems to be that it's a bit like the Adelaide 500. It seems to be a very popular idea with people over there at the moment because. They're saying over in Perth, hey, we don't get the big events. We don't have the Grand Prix. We don't have the Grand Final. We don't have the Boxing Day Test. We don't have, they
Bring
do
back
have a
Rally Australia.
You just
Well,
forgot the Australian Open. I'm watching Roland Garros, and there's no crowds there again this year, like I said last year, Brett.
Well, well, they will be for the finals.
Oh,
They would be if there was
no.
a French player playing.
Well, see, it's Roland Garros, so the French are attending, ironically.
Yes, it's.
Sabalenka's playing. I'm not a fan of her, but she's number one. The crowd's half the stands are empty. That wouldn't happen here in Australia.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's been the criticism over there in France, but even when we were there for Le Mans, that was one of the good things. Is if you wanted, sort of cheap French Open merchandise, you'd usually get in sort of the Monday or Tuesday after the final, and you'd go into Carrefour or one of the other, or Auchan or one of those stores, and there'd be like cut price merchandise, 2004 French Open T-shirts, now 50% off. So we've picked up a bit of that over the years. So
cheap seats going right now in my TV. I tell you, there's no one there. Anyway,
but yeah, so it's interesting. But the supercars back again now, as pointed out at the end of the year. Of course, we're going to have the grand final on the streets of Adelaide. Speaking of Adelaide, and one of the big attractions, or planned big attractions, for the second year in a row, was going to be a genuine, real life NASCAR driver. Well, for the second year in a row, that ain't happening because Kyle Larson has pulled out the wild card entry. Hasn't been sort of specific about the exact reasons why. Sort of like basically linked it to his poor performance at the different difficulties he had when he ran running both the Indy 500 and NASCAR as well, the World 600 on the same day.
All you had in, huh?
But yeah, I mean, in terms of, I don't know whether that shouldn't mean anything at all. But for whatever reason, he's pulled out. So we don't have that. I think it's probably true that will Larson ever come? Is he going to be the new Paul Newman rumour? And for those of us who are old enough to remember, God, how many years did we have that? It was standard. It was on. I mean, this is in the day.
He's coming to the Gold Coast. He's coming to the Gold Coast. No, he's not.
Well, it used to be Bathurst. That was the thing. It was like, Paul. I've lost count of the number of breathless headlines on the front page of Auto Action. Paul Newman to Bathurst. Paul Newman coming to the mountain, and Paul Newman never made it. And then he was coming to the Gold Coast, and that's then we had a brief couple of years of Alan McNish coming to the mountain, and Tom Christensen was coming to the mountain, and lots of people
third manufacturers for years and years. Like
many
Mitsubishi
well, we
Magna
got one
supercars,
eventually.
and Toyota.
Hyundai were on the way, and
Toyota Orions and Chrysler 300Cs, and
but anyway, that's so coming up this week is the latest round of the supercars, and once again they've had this very long break, which doesn't do them any favours at all from the point of view of keeping up the momentum and keeping the event and the sport in the in the minds of the public. I don't think most people outside of Perth. I don't know what it's like in terms of publicity in Western Australia. Perhaps if we've got any Western Australian viewers watching, they can let us know. But certainly from over here, it's very much a non-event. I haven't seen anything much at all out there about the fact that they're coming back, and they sort of go on this big sort of the grand tour now. They after Perth they head up to Hidden Valley and then across to Townsville, and so it's it's the big road trip at the moment, but just too long between events, I think, and that's a problem. I think they've really got to do something about that.
I did see Brock Feeney on the weekend just gone, and he was helmet on and going forwards and winning races. It just wasn't in his supercar, so he's keeping fit and active, helping out Brad Schumacher in the GT World Challenge Australia, taking his Audi R8 to a race win on Saturday, and then following up on with a third place on Sunday.
How about the tidal wave of that on YouTube at the moment that we all watch? Like Brett was saying last week that he's almost motorsport out at the moment, but you jump on and you look at the GT World Challenge now. It's just you've got the Asia, you've got the Australia, you've got all these rounds, and every single weekend there's at least 2 rounds somewhere, whether it be Monza and up at Queensland Raceway this week again. And it's crazy. If you just you miss a weekend, you are absolutely behind the lot. You have to do a full catch up.
I'm waiting for watch it at all. I mean, it's just there's just so much. You can't. I don't know. As I say, I don't know about you, but I've got other things to do with my life. As much as I obviously love motor racing, I've got lots and lots of other things to do with my time.
It's hard to keep up with all the manufacturers and the points unless you watch a 15, 20-minute roundup of it, because you think, okay, this is...
They are very good at. They're very good at... they get out those highlights packages very, very quickly. And also IndyCar are very good at that. So are IMSA as well. And they're starting to learn... That's where the viewership is. I was watching something totally unrelated, something within the television industry, a meeting of a lot of top American broadcast television executives, and they were just saying television is dead in America. It is completely nobody under 50 watches television. They're not even watching pay TV anymore. They're basically watching people under 35 are all watching YouTube and increasing. And it's not
Or
even
live streams
close.
and
No.
podcasts.
The figures
They've
they
had they've been educated to the concept by pay TV. Like they're used to the idea of non-networks broadcasting, so that's why it's different there from here. At least I believe.
Yeah, well,
Having
I think that's going to change. I mean,
Well,
because
yeah.
and certain, like certainly, I mean, it's one of the reasons for sort of, it wasn't a major reason, but it was one of the reasons for stopping in pit lane on 31. Because if you had a look at the figures we were getting on channel 31 and the figures we were getting on the YouTube channel were now starting to get very close, and on some occasions YouTube was outrageous, and you've got none of those restrictions, or very few of the restrictions that you have with broadcast television. You can go to when you want, and the show can be however long it needs to be, whether it's 10 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, or 90 minutes. It doesn't matter on YouTube. No one's stopping you one way or the other. It's just got so much more flexibility, and young people in particular. And now, as was pointed out, it's like right now, if you bought a television, particularly in America, but even here in Australia, if you bought a new television in the last 4 years, it's got YouTube on it. There is a YouTube app on every new television that you buy nowadays.
Well,
Every new television is a monitor. So
not just that, Brett. You got to add to it every smart TV set-top box, any box as well too, has got YouTube on as well too, Brett.
It's got YouTube on it. I mean, that's one of the things that 31 are doing with the CTV Plus app. It's been sort of their big weakness is they developed for small screens. Now that's one of the things they were talking about in this podcast. The guy who was an expert and actually worked for YouTube was saying that a couple of years ago, 90% of viewership of YouTube was basically on phones and tablets, and very little was on television. Now it's 40% in America is now on full-scale televisions, and basically it's young people who are sitting down and watching it, and so you've got a lot of major companies. As I said, the rumor going around is Stephen Colbert is because apparently what's his name, Conan O'Brien has already basically gone to YouTube full time. Jon Stewart has gone mostly to YouTube. All the big names in American television are now just saying, we're just going to do our own thing now. We're going to leave. We're not going to bother with network TV anymore. We're going to produce our own content, run our own channels, and run our own stations, and run on YouTube, because like everybody's got it.
Having said all this, I thought it was a stroke of genius to have two categories in Australia fixture at different times. Like you had the Speed Series in the afternoon and the Super Series at the night time. I thought that was a stroke of genius.
Well, I don't think they actually worked together. I think it was just the way that it worked, because they wanted the viewership. They wanted the colour of those races under lights, and once again it looked fantastic. I mean, even with the small crowd, and it wasn't the most wasn't the best attended meeting, and even from a competitor point of view. But if you have a look at those races from Sydney Motorsport Park on Friday and Saturday night, the TA2 and the hyper races and the production goes, basically everything just looked $1 million under lights.
Speaking of under lights, but not quite, maybe more dusk for you, Brett. See, Leanne Edelston won the roll racing out at Calder on Sunday.
Really?
Yeah.
The pink Lamborghini.
Yeah, so I said the Leanne Edelston was in her pink Lambo out there,
Yes,
wasn't
that was,
she?
in fact, that was Geordie, whose last name I still haven't been able to use. But yes, came across from, that was terrifying. I mean, if you were out at Calder Park and had a look at that Lamborghini in action, he was playing with everybody else, and then he finally came up against a came up against a very well prepared, full-on drag car, Commodore, and it was like, this is going to be an interesting. No, he just played with him. He just put his foot on the accelerator at the 8th mile mark, and just blasted through, and really cruised through with a top speed of just over 188 miles per hour. Nothing was going to touch him. And once again, fabulous weather. We were blessed with fabulous weather, but also blessed once again with a really, really good crowd. The people turned out in really big numbers. We gave away we had a lot of merch to give away, and we gave away lots of T-shirts and a lovely backpack from Summit Racing, because Summit Racing, the main sponsor of the Roll Racing Championships out at Calder Park. So, but it was a really, really good turnout of cars, fabulous turnout of spectators. It was a great day, really enjoyed, even though I was working in inverted commas. I had a ball. It was a fabulous, fabulous weekend. Coming up, I think July is, we'll have another meeting. Once again, over the winter, the meetings will revert back to Sundays. And once again, it was a nice compact day. We started at 12 and we finished at 5. Everybody was happy with that. You didn't have to get up at stupid o'clock in the morning and wash all of the ice off your car and all the rest of it. It was a very nice leisurely trip across. You probably had time, if you wanted to pop in and have a cup of coffee and a bit of brunch and an avocado on toast or whatever it is that you wanted to have, and then sort of roll up to Calder and have a day of a couple of hours of drag racing and a couple of hours of roll racing. It was terrific. Fantastic.
Well, 10 days ago, on the back of the QRDC race meeting at Queensland Raceway, we had roll racing on the Saturday night afterwards. So it was a nice, easy little. It was a great little event that you could just package up and run into the evening after circuit racing finished for the day. Have some diesel.
The Bend are doing a lot of that as well. So the roll racing has become really, really popular. I know all the drag guys, and I'm sort of one of them, are saying like, why can't we have let's have drag racing? That's not what people wanted. It's interesting that Geordie brought the Lambo across, and there were a lot of really fast exotic cars out there. There was an Audi TT. There were quite a few really fast Supras and other machines. They didn't come out until the roll racing started. They were there. They could have run drag racing if they wanted. They didn't. They weren't interested. They just they were there for the roll racing, and so we had like a good turnout for the drag racing. But as soon as I made the announcement, competitors for we're going roll racing in 5 minutes, all roll racing competitors to the staging lanes. Suddenly it filled up, and they were down the entire length of the main straight and around the corner, queued up ready to race. So fabulous day. So it was. So thanks to everybody who came out and all the people who came in and came up and said hello. We appreciate that. Now, speaking of drag racing, I'll just be very, very. The biggest drag racing event in the country begins this Thursday. I sort of jumped the gun last week. I brought up a red light. It's happening at Willowbank Raceway up your way, Mark. That's this weekend, the Winter Nationals. Over 460 cars have been entered from all over Australia, and I think there's some New Zealand entries as well. I think it's six top fuel dragsters and 6 top funny cars, fuel funny cars. Also, I think 18
we could hear
top
the
slammers.
We could hear the Top Bike were practicing during the GT3 and GT4 races last weekend. You could hear them rolling over from the noise washing over the fence from the drag strip next door to QR. It's for those who are not familiar, there's a cluster of 6 motor racing venues all in the one little bit of real estate, with Queensland Raceway at the back, the Willowbank drag strip running along one side, and running up the access road beside them. You've got a dirt kart track, a bitumen kart track, a dirt oval, and a tiny dirt oval for remote control race cars. So we have the full gamut of activities in the
But I
Ipswich
probably
Motorsport precinct, and yes, indeed, very much. And I would love to be able to go out to Winter Nationals, but I can't get home from Winter Nationals with my situation at the moment.
Just
Yeah,
don't
it's
forget
one of
I
that
those
probably
things
Isle of
late
I
at
probably
night,
wouldn't have used the term washing over last
yeah,
weekend. I
yeah,
probably
yeah,
wouldn't
oh, yeah,
have used that
washing it.
term.
Isle
Well,
of
it only
on,
rained on Saturday.
onto a bit of subject. Isle of Man TT finishes up this week as well too. Huge. Michael Dunlop broke the record last year. We did mention that on Full Course Yellow over the what is it again? 37.73 mile distance, and so he's looking to come back and win it for the break his 29th time, and 29 wins he's had last year. Peter Hickman, Davey Tyler, some of the big names that challenged Dunlop this year by the looks of things. And practice second week. So John McGuinness is also one of the several legends that's going to be running it again too. So look at TT Plus if you have to pay the dollars and subscribe to that, or jump on that famous channel we've been talking about all night on and off YouTube and watch the highlights package. But yeah, if you love your two wheels and you're feeling a little bit deprived, there's a bit going on in MotoGP. Mark Marquez at the moment says that he's not giving enough feedback to his team at the moment, and Raz got and Pramax not. There's a little bit of rumblings going on with Jack Miller if he does decide to swap over to World Superbikes. But yeah, it's all pretty quiet on the Western front there. But TT, Isle of Man TT this week.
Well,
interesting
you
that
say on the Western Front, though, there's some other news in relation to Wanneroo Raceway this weekend with the TA2 popping up very late notice to fill in an empty slot on the program for with supercars, and at
I think that's
virtually no
that's one of
notice
the
at all.
problems that they've got at they've done very well. I mean, there's obviously a few local cars over there, but it's interesting. I forget who it was just recently, but I was one of the competitors in the Trans Am series was talking about the success of it, and basically said, like I was really looking at this as the pathway to supercars, and increasingly I'm going, do I really need supercars? Do I go? We're enjoying this. This is getting bigger and bigger. We've got great racing. We've got huge fields. The cars are so much more, affordable to race and affordable to to crash and affordable to repair. They're just a much better package, and we can see a lot of benefit in just hanging around and just sticking with Trans Am. So
If you hear a lot of background noise, I'm just getting pelted with rain all of a sudden. That's why I was looking up and around.
well,
Can't hear it.
that's a surprise. That's a surprise. We haven't had any of that for a while, apart from last week at about this time when everything got covered in mud.
The
Um,
and the oh, go Peter.
I just want to say, last weekend, I watched the Saturday races at Queensland Raceway, and there was the same amount of standing water as it was at the Grand Prix, and there was they full credit to them. They didn't stop the race and any races, or until there was not enough time to clear up an accident, and then they red flagged
Yeah.
it.
Well, yeah, Ryan Hansford was thankfully okay after that GT4 accident that brought an end to racing on Sunday. That spectacular accident where we had the I'm not sure if fortunate is the right word to use, but we had that shot looking straight up the Dick Johnson Straight at Queensland Raceway, and you could see in millimetric detail as Hansford moved out to overtake the other car, and then the car braking hard left when it aquaplaned off that bit of standing water there and thumped the concrete wall quite hard. There's a very well built wall on the pit wall at Dick Johnson at Queensland Raceway on Dick Johnson Straight. It's yeah, and unfortunately, it's done a bit of damage to the multi-spares racing Mustang GT4. That was the car's first race, and it de facto won it until the car was given a penalty, and they were sent down to, I think, sixth or eighth in the final standings. But yeah, unfortunately, but the car is rebuildable and will be rebuilt. So we look forward to seeing
And as we
look
put at
forward
the
to seeing the
bottom,
multi-space Mustang back in action, hopefully for the next round. Great
I
team,
know.
the multi-space team. They run
yeah,
cars
they reckon
also
they're going
in
to have it
touring
back
car
in. They're
masters,
going to
and
have it back in. Because they said they'll definitely
yeah,
have it back in time. So they've already started
I
the
know.
rebuild.
yeah,
I know
team
Albert
run by
Park.
But Pete,
I know Albert Park is a street circuit and not a pure racing circuit, but there was the same amount of standing water, and they stopped all the races on the Sunday, except for the Grand Prix. Um, but full credit to Queensland Raceway. I know it's a pure circuit, but there was the same amount of standing water, and they said, "No, we're going to run it."
I have to put on my bucket list for you, Pete, because I stood out in the middle of that all day on the Grand Prix
So
on
did
that Sunday.
I.
Remember? Yeah,
yeah,
I stood out in the middle of it, directing people. You probably got
I
some
didn't
cover of it.
stand. I
Yeah,
didn't
but
stand.
but you got some cover. I think I was out in the middle. Actually,
No, I didn't.
I
I
was
didn't.
waist.
no, there's
I,
no cover. That's for sure.
I was
Yeah,
waist
that's the
deep in
spread.
the
Yeah,
water
yeah.
in one of those ones where where it flooded completely, and I having to help get people things and people out. So I waded through it. Everyone got a good laugh out of it. But yeah, you're right though, Pete. Point. I think that's a point. Sometimes they can be a little bit sensitive, and the other thing is. There are unfortunately it's over-regulated sometimes, Pete. So yeah, probably because the rules have been set up beforehand, they probably have to red flag them and not run those races anyway because they're not allowed to. If they did, they'd probably get massive amounts of trouble.
Anyway, let's wrap it
this.
up there because we've
Well,
got we've been going we've going to. I was determined we're going to be out on the hour mark this week. We can't cover everything, so to everybody for watching, thanks a lot for watching. Now we'll be hopefully back next week. We're not 100% sure at this stage because there's some stuff coming up that Pete, Doc, and I might be involved in that involves some post production discussion from the tune up. So, but that's we don't know what night it is, but we've been told that it might be next Tuesday. So if it is, we won't be here, but hopefully we'll certainly be back before Le Mans. That's there one way or another. Even if we've got to do a special program, we will do a special program from the previewing the Le Mans 24-hour race. It's going to be an absolutely enormous race this year. It's enormous every year, but this is obviously with so many teams, so many cars at the top level. It's going to be absolutely
Get a glass
enormous
of
this year.
get a glass of French apple cider out here, sitting on the laptop while we do it.
well,
Maybe.
I look forward to seeing the three of you and Richard and Stilly, and we'll all be up in the Tribune that's at the top of the top of the Tribune at Circuit de la Sarthe, and looking so much forward to it.
Yeah,
I can't believe the grid for the Le Mans this year is so big that they have a hypercar in the reserve list. There
That's great.
wasn't enough room on the grid for all the hypercars.
That's good.
Yeah, and imagine what it's going to be like next year when we'll get Genesis as well. Ford are just around the corner. We'll probably learn more. But
McLaren.
as I've said before, the thing about Le Mans, it's not just the race itself; it's all of the things around it. And the Friday is a huge day from a media standpoint and looking at the future direction of the sport. Any major announcements that are going to be made by any manufacturer at all will be made on the probably on the Friday at Le Mans, and then of course you've got all of the. If you're not subscribed to Stan or you're not don't have the FIA WEC app and you have to subscribe to them, just remember that most of the support races, the Mustang Challenge, the Lon Cup,
Carrera Cup.
Michelin Le Mans
Yeah.
Cup, Carrera Cup, all those will all be live on YouTube once again, and of course full coverage right across the weekend, including this weekend for the test session. The prelude will be on Radio Le Mans. Go to radiolemans.com and you'll be able to listen to all of the the coverage of the whole week of Le Mans. They don't miss anything. They basically sit up there for the whole week. Also, it was announced today the scrutineering, Saturday scrutineering from Place de Republique. In the heart of the town, just in the shadow of the magnificent 13th century cathedral there. And if you haven't seen around there, check out the In Pit Lane YouTube channel for our visit to Le Mans, because we were down there and we did a bit of a look around, had a look around the cathedral. Just absolutely magnificent, beautiful town, and a huge event during the week when they have scrutineering in the heart of the town. They probably get around sort of 20,000-30,000 just for that, to watch the cars sort of rolling in and off the getting scrutineered. And of course the big drivers parade on Friday. It's a massive week, and if you ever get the opportunity, head out there. Just extraordinary.
Whoever
Okay.
thought of setting scrutineering up in public in the town square at Le Mans deserves, like Legion d'Honneur for that idea.
It's just the thing
brilliant.
is, I mean, they've turned it now into a full week of. If you go now, I mean, when we went the first couple of times, we went on the Wednesday. There was some practice on Wednesday and some practice and qualifying Thursday. Nothing happened at all on Friday. And then, of course, Saturday and Sunday you had the race itself. But now there's something happening pretty much every single day of the week. And the good thing is, although it's totally booked out, if you get if you go on the Sunday for the prelude, for the test session, and buy your general admission ticket, that gets you through the whole week. That gets you everything, right through. And it's gone up considerably, I think. But the year that I got, which I think was 2016, I got a general admission pass, which basically gave me 5 full days of Le Mans. It cost in Australian dollars, it was $75 for the 5 days of 5 days of racing at the biggest racing event in the world. And by the way, the beers are about sort of the very large beers. I've still got the cups outside. I think, Pete, you might still have one that we brought back from you. They're pretty large. They're pretty large cups. And they were about $3.50, I think. It's a great value event. Great event. Okay, everybody, let's wrap it up there. Thanks everybody for joining us again. Hope you enjoyed the bit of a chat. We'll hopefully see you again next Tuesday. If not, we'll see you sometime, possibly Wednesday or whatever night we're not having the wrap party for the tune-up. We'll be here. Okay, everyone. I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Bye, everybody.
Enjoy the racing this week.